Oh man, that's it. It's just too funny. But this is the thing. Like Jordan Peterson, like they're totally like they just don't get how their stuff in any way connects, to the idea of authoritarianism or fascism, and they really are in projection mode all the time when it comes to the question of of fascism and all the problems that the authoritarianism, the naturalizing hierarchies, and the white supremacy, right? That was part of what Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins's complete ignorance about Islam shows. Is they just like, yeah, those are those people. Those people are backwards. Like, why shouldn't we be able to torture them if we think they have weapons? Why shouldn't we be able to, aren't all like just the kind of the the imprecision and the in understanding, the differences all throughout the Muslim world and all that stuff. But anyway, the right and Republicans, they, sometimes they, and Trump was very good at this. They say the quiet part loud sometimes, right? They say the quiet part loud, and they don't mean to. They don't mean to make it so obvious, right? But sometimes, I guess, like now in the Trump age, they really do make it obvious. I'm going to start first with this. What's his name? Dan Crenshaw, iPats guy. I mean, this is they're full of projections. So he's going to call progressives are the real fascists, and it's cancel culture is the fascism. It's not like all the detaining the children, purposefully, horrifying and traumatizing children, because, they're from South America, because of their race. We don't care at all. The society doesn't care about them. And the Republican Party openly celebrated what Donald Trump was doing. Some of these kids are getting molested in private prisons, contracted by ICE. Just evil, evil stuff. But you know what? It's the cancel culture. That's the problem.
Congressman, I hope you watched our interview with the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, just a few moments ago. He was calling out these companies, major corporations, which are critical of Georgia's new voting law. I believe you're calling this kind of politicization progressive fascism. That's strong stuff. You want to make your case, Congressman?
So this is because Republicans are trying to restrict voting, disenfranchise people, primarily people of color, and corporate America, for all its evil, is like, saying something about it. Let's hear Dan Crenshaw. This is woke fascism.
Yeah, and I think that's the right term to use in this case. Some people call it cancel culture. Cancel culture is a tool, but it's a tool of the fascists. So what is fascism? Look, fascism is the regimentation of the economy, of society. It's the suppression of the opposition, and it often elevates race above the individual as well. So what does that sound like to you? It sounds like these woke progressives in every respect.
Okay, so this is a typical. You hear this thrown around a lot, that fascism is complete control of the economy. Guys, let's just look up like an actual, like a more academic definition of fascism. Oh, look at this. Look at that. Let's just the really quick bullet point. Fascism is a form of far-right, authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and of the economy, which came to presence in early 20th century Europe. Here we can go to Encyclopedia Britannica. Fascism, political ideology, and mass movement that dominated many parts of Central, Southern, and Eastern Europe between 1919 and 1945, that also had adherents in Western Europe, blah, blah, blah. Europe's first fascist leader, Benito Mussolini, used an axe as a symbol. All right. Although fascist parties and movements differ significantly from one another, they had many characteristics in common, including extreme militaristic nationalism, contempt for electoral democracy, contempt for electoral democracy, and political and cultural liberalism. You don't say. A belief in natural social hierarchy. Oh, the lobsters, and the rule of elites. Oh, yeah, all that talk about in the Republicans about elites might just be total bullshit. And the desire to create a Volksgemeinschaft, a people's community in which individual interests would be subordinated to the good of the nation. At the end of World War II, the major European fascist parties were broken up. Some countries, they were officially banned. All right, so that's like the actual definition of fascism. But no, it's when the Democrats don't want racism. That's for the fascists.
You see Antifa roaming the streets calling themselves anti-fascist while they act as fascists.
Okay, on my channel, go back. I interviewed an anti-fascist, Antifa, who had his scalp sliced open by a Proud Boy, who it's in the bylaws of the Proud Boys to commit violence against leftists, to be clear. Oh, and the massive mob of, the cop-killing mob of MAGA supporters on January 6th, they were chanting, fuck Antifa, but,
What's happening now is the progressives have been able to conscript the institutions in their camp and make them do their bidding for them, whether it's social media companies or now corporations. They get them to spread the lies and the propaganda for them. And anybody who disagrees with them is labeled a racist. So this is what I mean by the forced suppression of the opposition. This is why we should be calling this progressive fascism, because they're making sure that no other ideas are within the norms of debate anymore. They want to bypass debate. That's what cancel culture is designed to do. Deplatform, destroy somebody, and bypass the norms of debate. To make you think that what you believe, the normal common sense things that you believe, like, hey, if you should have an ID to vote so we know who you are, we know you already voted. Crazy, right? Bypass that normal debate, call you a racist, call it Jim Crow 2.0. So the corporations have become a part of this, and we should be labeling it for what it is.
They're the real fascists. So, again, we went over the Georgia stuff. There's tons of more restrictions on on voting in Georgia. There's also just more power given to the localities, the counties, to be more restrictive if they want to be, right? And so, this is like what they do. No, they're the real fascists. Oh, and it's just simple. We just want IDs. Even though they know, that like that guy Hullfeller died, and he had hard drives full of here's all the ways we can fuck up the vote and suppress it and help ourselves, right? So there's, Dan Crenshaw trying to do a little bit of a, PR. It's the left that are the real fascists. But, when you have somebody like Tucker Carlson on the air, who's been so clearly white nationalist since the whole Trumpism began, but then you have him go, as this person tweets, passionate defense for white replacement theory. This is what white nationalists talk about when they were marching in Charleston. The Jews will not replace us. When they were chanting that, the Jews will not replace us. That's replacement theory. That's the idea that people of color are replacing white people. And this is why white nationalists often are radicalized to the point of committing mass murder, whether it's Oklahoma City, whether it's the Columbine shooters who actually did it on the anniversary of Oklahoma City, whether it's a mosque shooter, a temple shooter, a black church shooter like Dylan Roof, whether it is a guy driving into, a crowd. Even if you're white, they will find a way to blame you for people of color existing. Like people of color can't even exist, have children, without it being a crime against them. The El Paso shooter specifically went to Mexico to kill, El Paso at the border of Mexico to kill Mexicans. Okay? He said it in his manifesto. So that is one of their biggest things is replacement theory. And here's Tucker Carlson just like talking about it on the highest rated news channel on cable.
I'm laughing because this is one of about 10 stories that I know you've covered where the government shows preference to people who have shown absolute contempt for our customs, our laws, our system itself, and they're being treated better than American citizens. Now, I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement. If you
wonder why. Maybe it's because that's Nazi rhetoric, Tucker Carlson. I think you know that. You were employing a neo-Nazi writer not too long ago. Maybe he never left.
Suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. but they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it, that's true. If this was happening in your house, if you were in 6th grade, for example, and without telling you, your parents adopted a bunch of new siblings and gave them brand new bikes and let them stay up later.
This is crazy. This is a stupid metaphor. He's an absolute. Look at. This is a terrible human being. It's a terrible human being.
Love more, and it would be kind of hard to argue against you because look at the evidence. So this matters on a bunch of different levels, but on the most basic level, it's a voting rights question. In a democracy, one person equals one vote. If you change the population, you dilute the political power of the people who live there. So every time they import a new voter, I become disenfranchised as a current voter. So I don't understand why we don't understand this. I mean, everyone wants to make a racial issue out of it. Ooh, the white replacement theory. No. This is a voting rights question. I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that?
They're importing a brand new electorate. So, this is obviously a total mealy-mouthed shithead argument to make. Doesn't make any sense at all. This country's always had immigration. Always has. But, right now it just matters so much to restrict the immigration from the global south, from South America. And it's really weird. Like, I once heard someone talking about this and immigration, and specifically around Republicans and Donald Trump and how they treat South American immigrants. Because it is like, politically, we saw plenty of Latinos vote for Trump. And not just all Cubans either. Because you have like a lot of cultural conservatism among, I live in Santa Maria Valley, California, that is majority, they say Hispanic, that's for like census data, but Latina, right? And that's not all Mexicans. There's lots of Mexicans. We have Mexicans from all over Mexico, Oaxacans, Mixtecos, indigenous, more Castilian, but we also have Peruvians, we have Colombians, we have Ecuadorians, we have a great Ecuadorian restaurant. We have, I know Cubans, I know Puerto Ricans, I know, like, people, come from all over, and they're not a monolith. Absolutely not. Even people from one country are not a monolith, and they might very much be sympathetic to cultural, conservative, religious-based, whatever the arguments are. And, you think about, what do the Republicans love to, the family, and you got to work hard. And that is all a big part of Latina culture. And Republicans are just going to shit all over them, and don't care, not going to try to get their vote. I remember when they used to at least try. Like, there were Viva Bush stickers back for supporting George Bush that I would see. Viva Bush, right? So they used to try, but now they don't even try. And so Tucker Carlson just sees immigrants, which we know the immigrants they're concerned about are from South America. He's so concerned about them that this is harming me. He's making it a zero sum. The more of them come, the less representation I have. Of course, he'll never cop to the fact that the Senate overrepresents conservatives, right? There are states that get 2 senators, and California gets 2 senators, but California has single counties that have more population than those states, right? They don't care about that, right? Oh, the Democrats want to, reform the filibuster. That's a power grab. They only see immigration as, they always characterize it as the Democrats are trying to, ensure votes. It's nuts. And when he's using this openly white nationalist rhetoric, this is going out to tons of people. I know Republicans. I pay attention to the local opinion page of my newspapers. I know Republicans who, as Trump happened, and then now with this stuff, like, if they weren't reading like Der Stürmer or whatever white nationalist magazine or website before Trump and Tucker Carlson took this turn, they're using their rhetoric now. They weren't before. I've seen the changes. They weren't doing that before. So this is what we're seeing. And, when, Jordan Peterson has been making this culturally conservative argument for so long, or for the years now that, for years before he really got famous, but now, big time. And then they want to act all like, oh, why am I being compared to Red Skull? And Tucker Carlson is, the gatekeepers on Twitter are going to get hysterical. Right? Because they know what they're doing. And Dan Crenshaw is going to say, Antifa's the real fascists. This is the game, folks. This is the game. It's never going to end. We're always going to have to be digging trenches, digging the mud out of the trenches that they're constantly going to be creating. And across the world. I mean, they just, the military junta in Myanmar shut off the internet last week. Shut it off. And the week before that, people were posting videos of the military going through streets shooting just innocent people, shooting unarmed people off of their motorcycles, dragging bodies through the street. That's why they turned off the internet. This right-wing coup. And even then, the leader that they removed was a pretty right-wing herself. There was already a genocide going on there of the Rohingya Muslims, right? And then on top of that, I mean, and you have to realize there are tons of far-right people in the United States who, if they're not going to do a mass shooting, they're just ready for something to happen, for them to go shoot leftists. They post about it all the time. They're waxing poetic. They can't wait. They're champing at the bit to shoot leftists, to shoot people of color. Think of all the people who drove into crowds of protesters, of Black Lives Matter protesters. They can't wait. Give me an excuse, is what they're thinking, basically.